I am very excited to have the privilege of hosting April 2022 Innovators at Citi event on all things Metaverse. As always, we will leave some time for questions from the audience at the end of the session, so please feel free to submit them via Slido using hashtag Innovators. So let's get to it. Metaverse is emerging as the next big tech platform, attracting game makers, social makers, luxury brands, and plenty of investment. Undoubtedly, there is a lot of hype surrounding the metaverse, but there is also a lot of substance, development, and exciting trends. On this panel, we will break down the biggest developments and hear from the most interesting minds that are building, investing in, and experiencing the metaverse. And I can't think of a person more qualified to help us demystify the metaverse than Sébastien Borget, who has created a leading open metaverse called the Sandbox. What is the Sandbox? The Sandbox is a blockchain-based virtual world where players can create, play, own, and monetize their experiences using NFTs and Sand. Sandbox has been featured in top 100 most influential companies of 2022 by Times Magazine. And if that's not enough, Sébastien has been named number 4 in the top 100 most influential people in crypto by Cointelegraph. Sébastien, thank you so much for joining us. You are an incredibly sought after speaker, and we are very glad to have you here with us today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your patience. Sorry for keeping you waiting. A pleasure to be here live today with every one of you.
Great. Well, thank you. I'm also equally excited that we have today on our panel Milica Zec, who is the Chief Metaverse Officer. And yes, you heard that correctly. Chief Metaverse Officer of InfiniteWorld, a metaverse infrastructure platform for brands. She was named one of Adweek's top 100 creatives for creating, directing, and producing critically acclaimed virtual reality experiences. And her work has been featured on world-renowned Sundance and Cannes film festivals and experienced by world leaders and decision makers, and anyone from Christine Lagarde at the World Economic Forum to Jeff Goldblum at Disney+. A fun fact, there are only 70 chief metaverse officers in the world, and Milica happens to be one of them. But the best part about Milica's background, as you all may have guessed with her last name, is that she's my sister, my inspiration, and the very reason why I am sitting here today and talking about the metaverse. So Milica, thank you for making the time to join us as well.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Great. So, Sébastien and Milica, one of the goals of Innovators at Citi is to help colleagues across Citi deconstruct emerging technologies. We had over 3,000 people from across our businesses and from regions all around the world sign up for this event. The word metaverse seems to be omnipresent, but many people are still struggling to comprehend what exactly is the metaverse. So let's start with level setting. What is the metaverse to you, your team, your company, and what are its key characteristics? Sébastien, let's start with you.
All right. Well, you're right. Like the metaverse is a word, it's sometimes a bit of a buzzword that's being applied everywhere. To us, the metaverse is essentially this myriad of virtual worlds that us human beings can access through an avatar. That avatar is this 3D representation of ourselves. And with that avatar, we're able to interact, to engage, to socialize into more social, rich, immersive experiences. What makes the metaverse very different from all the virtual worlds we've been seeing for the past 25 years is this idea that this avatar becomes our identity. We actually own it, and we can take that avatar, take that identity from one world to another without having to ask permission to the platform, to the game or the developer that hosts those experiences. So really, this idea of asset, your identity, your digital asset, your currency belong to you. You own them and you can take them from one world to another. That's really the metaverse. And we're contributing to build a metaverse that really focusing around like entertainment, pushing toward like how we can have more fun with our avatars, discover new form of entertainment, new form of interaction with each other, pushing for more creative experience than transactional commerce based.
Thank you for that. Milica, can you share with us your interpretation of the metaverse?
Well, what's interesting about Metaverse, it started as a work of fiction, in a sci-fi book, basically called Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson, written almost 3 decades ago. So his protagonist basically jumps back and forth between dystopian LA and a virtual world called the Metaverse that we all now adopted. And so the Metaverse is in a way a next iteration of internet, and it's also considered the immersive internet of the future. Combines the elements, anything from game engine technologies through blockchain technologies, AR, VR, web, and it's a space that you're, as Sebastian was mentioning, you're interacting in a computer-generated environment, basically with other users through avatars all across different platforms.
Great, thank you for that. And Sebastian, can you tell us a bit more about your company, the Sandbox? What is it? How does it work? How does one access the Sandbox? And can you also talk a little bit about this notion that you said of interoperability and bringing your avatar from one metaverse to another, and kind of what role does Sandbox play in this current ecosystem of decentralized versus centralized and open versus closed metaverse?
What we're creating with Sandbox is really starting from gaming and pushing towards like an expansion of all the activities we can find in the real world, expanding them through technology and providing tools that are accessible to everyone and allow them to be more creative, to find those new form of entertainment, those new ways to interact with each other. So typically you will be able with your avatar in Sandbox to not only come into a virtual club, dance with others, listen to your favorite artists, express with your avatar in a different ways. You can participate in both single player, multiplayer games. You can contribute and build the content yourself, create that world from scratch, or you can attend the virtual concert with your favorite music artist, and many more activities expanding toward like education, art, visiting museums, galleries, learning new skills, and many more things like fashion shows, virtual shows, and so on. We're taking an approach that's very user-centric and community-driven. We want to have anyone be able to become a creator and make 3D assets, make those experiences. We believe 99% of the metaverse will actually be built by you, anyone, a user. That's why creation tools need to be accessible and also involve a lot of culture that comes from the brands, the IPs, the people that we know in the real world and that we can interact with in new ways in the metaverse, to prove that we're a fan of, to prove that we can use those creativity to expand beyond our imagination, beyond the laws of physics, and together be closer to the value we have to expand the stories, the universe, the location, and do things that we cannot do together in the real world. That's really what we're building at Sandbox.
And it sounds fascinating. And I'm interested, so once you build something in the Sandbox, can you take it to the other metaverse? Can you take it to Decentraland? Can you take it to Roblox? And if not now, is that the idea that going forward, we would be able to do so?
Well, so anything you create in Sandbox is actually an NFT on a blockchain. An NFT is a digital asset that actually any kind of digital asset. It could be a picture, a video, a 3D file. In the case of Sandbox, it is actually a 3D asset that either represents your avatar, represents your land, the digital piece of real estate where you will publish your experience and other avatars can come, go, and meet and interact with each other. Or it can be like content, like enemies, platform, doors, equipment, NPCs, etc. So all the content you create, you own it. You can use it in Sandbox and potentially use it on any other decentralized virtual world that is also built upon the same technology, which is here blockchain, this public ledger, more specifically on Ethereum blockchain, since that the blockchain we chose. But broadly now, like we're seeing interoperability across many other blockchain that are based on the same standards protocol, like Polygon on layer 2 or more. Interoperability is this concept that one digital asset can actually have multiple utility beyond the application it originated from. You can also play and interact with NFTs that were actually not made in Sandbox, but made outside of Sandbox. So think of like this crypto art, you can display it in Sandbox. This profile picture, you can turn it into a 3D character in Sandbox and start to interact and play with it. One challenge is definitely like how you bring those assets from one decentralized world to another. Even though the technical capability is there, we can read on the blockchain that you are the owner of that asset and you have the rightful, you have this right to use it in decentralized land, etc. It still needs to be implemented. Now, Roblox, Fortnite, Minecraft, Second Life, Facebook, Meta, just to name a few, they are not blockchain based. They are Web 2.0 centralized walled garden platform where all the content is actually stored on the private servers owned by the company. The database are private and the content made by the users cannot be exported or used on other platforms. So that's one of the big difference between Web 2 virtual worlds and Web 3 open metaverses.
Thank you for that. So basically it comes down to ownership and who owns the assets that are created within these worlds. And we are seeing an increasing number of consumers, particularly among Gen Z, millennials, and alpha flocking to the metaverse. I think I read something like 3 billion hours is spent monthly by 350 million users just in Fortnite alone. So, and we have all these, as you mentioned, major tech industry players from Meta to Microsoft investing billions of dollars into making metaverse the indispensable part of everyday life. And so it's not just the creators, but we also have brands now trying to enter the metaverse and capitalize on that creativity. And so clearly they will have to reimagine their customer engagement models to meet and delight people where they spend time and money, and that is in the metaverse. So Milica, over to you. You have a very cool title. What exactly does a Chief Metaverse Officer do? How do you and your company, InfiniteWorld, help companies adapt to this brand new world and leverage the sandboxes of this world to engage with customers in this new and innovative ways?
Yeah, so traditionally brands would start usually with brick and mortar shops, and then they transferred to websites where they were selling the same things, just you can buy them online. Then came social media into picture that really changed the way brands engage with consumers. But now comes metaverse. And this is a moment that is giving actually brands the opportunity to add a completely new models of their businesses and to rethink what they could also become. So they need to reimagine, and with their customers and how to engage them and to meet them in these new spaces. So this does require new ways of ideation, creation, marketing, because this would represent and does already represent new revenue streams and opportunities for those brands and companies. So we are kind of moving from direct to consumer, is becoming direct to avatar type of engagement. And so basically what also brands need to start understanding is that their typical consumers and their typical audiences are also now becoming investors. They're looking, does this bring value to me? Does this NFT or anything else you're doing in this metaverse, how does that work for me? How I can become bigger part of what I love? And also like having fun investing in JPEGs and stuff like the concepts are really changing and morphing into something new. So the role of a chief metaverse officer in our company is actually understanding what exists right now and explaining this whole, like presenting the brands with a roadmap and helping them, where does your brand want to go? Do you want to be more conservative and just start with NFT drop, or maybe add a marketplace to your website? Or do you want to start experimenting and throwing events in Sandbox or Decentraland, and then helping them, of course, tailor it to what that brand is and helping them imagine what they could become. But at the same time, I think the chief metaverse officer role is to be grounded in present moment and know everything that is going on, but also be grounded in future, because this industry is like moving like nothing else probably that we have seen. Like 1 month, like I'm expecting what's going to happen in May is months or years of another industry is going to go by in just in May. So I already have to be thinking what's going to happen in 6 months, 2 years, what are we, and even start building that, as Sebastian and his team started like probably 4 years ago, something like that. Imagining this before a lot of people didn't even know this is coming, right? So we also have to be doing that as this field is evolving as we speak, and we are at the forefront building it and making it happen and imagining it.
Yeah, that is well said. We are creating the metaverse at the moment all together. Speaking of these brand experiences, Lisa, can you tell me what are some of your favorite brand experiences that you've seen in the metaverse?
So I think maybe it would be useful to give 2 different examples. One would be a brand that is traditional brand, Nike, that created the Nike Land inside Roblox that is not built on Web3, but it is still a gamified universe with avatars, right? So they created almost something that looks like a headquarters. I've been in a physical like store in New York that is their headquarters in New York. It's a very fun store. It does have a basketball field and things like that. But then they built it. You don't have to now go in Portland, or you don't have to go to New York. You can just go on Roblox right now and be in this magical universe that they created, where things, as Sebastian has mentioned, we actually can, using game engines, we create the gravity. We decide, are we going to fly? So I went last night again just to again remind myself what they created, and I was flying through the Nike land, and then I was also skateboarding in the next moment, which was amazing, being on the ice. And then next moment I was on a basketball court, and then I saw their shoes floating around me. So it's kind of like almost creating a wonderland. That's what the creation of metaverse is. And then other example I would like to give to kind of people listening is a brand that was completely rooted and came out of metaverse, and a project called Bored Ape Yacht Club. They brought something very interesting. Besides, like it started with NFT drops, one-off drops. It's a lot of the world was surprised how well it all played out. But then they kind of were one of those that realized we can go beyond one-off drop. We can make utility of like out of these NFTs. We can give people way more in it. So you become a member of the private club. They organize private parties for you where you're invited. They also, if you own them, you get licensing to actually use those characters. Then people are making movies right now, books, the other day we entered the bar and there was a painting of a Bored Ape in a bar. It's actually incredible that, as Sebastian mentioned, like this creators economy and what the audiences that are not anymore audiences. This is their world, and they can co-create with the brands and projects and art they like, and that's the exciting part of this, because before art was like art collectors, it was really exclusive to art buyers. I'm just giving an example in art world because that really kind of took off very fast and first. And it was just for those privileged, right? Who could go to Chelsea galleries, who would know, the sellers, the buyers, and then you also have to have a lot of capital to do it. But today, anyone can become art collector, and that's like absolute beauty of it. Anyone can become investor, and not only that, you're actually having fun and enjoying this whole ride while you're doing it.
Sebastian, can you talk a little bit more about like some of the most amazing experiences or favorite experiences that you have seen?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to briefly say that, like, we're going to see so many new jobs created towards like the metaverse, like this opening of a digital economy based above Web3 and true ownership of digital assets. Like, we're just scratching the surface right now, and head of metaverse or head of Web3 department, each company should have one, because understanding that we're creating culture that embrace and bring people closer, like bring brand closer to their fans, involve them into like all the different steps of their business, is really interesting. And it's hard to think of it if you do not have like a clear strategy. If you only think NFT as like one-time drop of selling, it's a mistake. You need to think NFT as like this new way to connect with users and how we bring and give value to the users rather than we try to extract value from them. Wow. I'll stop there, but I could talk for hours on that topic. And so I wanted to share as well a few other great examples of brands we've seen succeed into their Web3 and metaverse strategy. One of them is definitely Adidas, which have been rewarding at first like a community who attended with a pro app, like an NFT that represents a proof of attendance, with then the possibility to mint exclusive, and they integrated as well with external existing Web3 communities such as the Bored Ape and such great artists, crypto artists and collectors as well. And now they enter the metaverse, so they have also their presence into a virtual world that expand the UGC content, the creativity content. We've seen brands as well like Gucci do the same. We have, and more specifically to Sandbox, some of the great experiences we've seen. I would like to mention Snoop Dogg and his strategy of like how he has enabled his fans to actually become their virtual neighbor into the Sandbox by having the possibility to own a piece of land just next to him, to visit his mansion and his compound. He's created a collection of 10,000 doggies called like avatar of himself that represent 25 years of his music history. Some of them are collectible and represent his himself at music clips, enabling the fans to play as himself into the metaverse and get many other benefits from owning and using those avatars, which are already 3D and playable in Sandbox. Another brand, the South China Morning Post, represents a great newspaper media from Hong Kong and broader Asia region. They recreated this historical Hong Kong Central Ferry Pier's location and got the users to discover it and enter and solve puzzles to learn more about the story of Hong Kong actually. Blondish, who launched exclusive songs and be a host, DJ host into our Club XYZ at Sandbox. We had Walking Dead, which embraced totally user-generated content. They launched the first NFT and opened a game jam, a video game competition in time limited, where we received over 1,000 submissions from anyone in the world, which made their own stories, their own games based on The Walking Dead. And the team behind that Skybound, when they saw the quality of those games, of those creations, they were very impressed. They said like they were really on par with like the professional game studio kind of production they were doing before. So those are just some of the activation that's been done, but definitely Sandbox has been place that connects creator and offer a broad range of very exciting possibilities.
And that sounds all amazing. And I can't wait for the moment when Citi will do something exciting in the Sandbox. And Sébastien, you talked about all these amazing experiences in entertainment and gaming and fashion brands, sport brands, creating experiences. So it's evident that Metaverse is becoming like the next Metaverse as a next mall for all these things to be experienced. I'm also wondering, beyond that, what are some other use cases of the Metaverse? What other industries is the Metaverse revolutionizing? And maybe we can switch to Milica for that question.
Well, the answer is really everything can be transformed and probably will be transformed. Anything from entertainment, as we talked about, live events, social media, work, travel, education, esports. This is all like being touched upon right now and is changing. And I really want to zoom out from this moment and bring us to the really beginning of humankind. And it was just us and the nature. And then we started organizing and we just lived right without any of these concepts that we live now. Buildings didn't exist and anything. Then we started organizing nature and creating like agriculture and organizing forests and everything, which brought us to agricultural revolution. After that happened industrial revolution. And we went into digital revolution, and really now we are in this great acceleration period where we are innovating so fast that we almost can't keep up. So just having said that, look how all of these concepts that we are living today are actually the invention of human mind. It's like a figment of human mind, came from us. So what we think today that social club is, it doesn't have to be anymore, right? We can totally reinvent like what traditional bank is. It doesn't have to be anymore. It can be rethought. So every single concept, like I think people started rapidly thinking outside the box. And I'm not saying that these new concepts are going to entirely eliminate and replace everything we know so far and how we lived our lives. I think this is add-on, and it's going to be a combination, and we'll see how it's going to morph. But we need to understand, and I think I'm inviting everyone who's listening to this, like, just start thinking how you can change the concept of everything you know. Like your ticket to concert actually doesn't have to be just a ticket to a concert, right? It can unlock many other, if it becomes NFT, it can unlock other experiences that you can in future have. It can live longer than one-off concert event. So yeah, that's how I think Metaverse is touching everything around us.
Just a few words, I can add a few concrete examples, because Sandbox, actually, we've seen really a broad range of actors enter Sandbox and own land. Like we have, of course, all the lifestyle, entertainment, luxury, fashion, gaming, sports, etc. on one side, but we're also finding like institutions such as the PricewaterhouseCoopers Hong Kong. We have banks with HSBC, SCB 10X, Standard Chartered Bank. We also have insurance with AXA in France, retail and shopping with some brand like Carrefour, Casino, and we're talking to the broader, more international one. Just this Monday, we announced with Mega City 2, which represent an extension of Hong Kong-inspired part of like the culture and lifestyle of Hong Kong. We have Ocean Park, which is the 7th largest theme park in the world based there. We have Theatre Asia, lifestyle fashion. We have Brink, an accelerator program from there, Mad World, and a few other brands. And exactly like Milica said, we need brands when they enter Sandbox or Regal Hotel Group as well in hospitality. They really reinvent themselves. They do not try to copycat what they are doing in the real world. And that's the exciting part of the Metaverse. We're living a new great area of disruption and innovation, which give more importance right now to the creativity, to the iterating and testing until we find out which will be the exact format or formats of interaction that will work the best. And that's a great moment to be
in. And even when we find out was the best, as we know, it's just going to keep evolving almost. It's going to be endless. And I would add another example to that would be also experience. It's not just brands, right? What they are doing and how they can evolve, but also how can we talk about, how can we understand someone else's life? How can we be in someone else's position? This is also enabling us. In our case, we previously I created with my team a project called 3, and it's a VR project. And we thought, how do we talk about climate that was not talked until now? So until that moment, we talked through traditional media, we talked through traditional documentaries, and people were educated like that. But then we realized, wait a second, what if we start using VR technology and actually place you in a headset so that you can become a seed of a rainforest tree, and when the experience starts, you actually start growing and your body starts becoming a rainforest tree. And then we also added to that smell. So not just eyes, ears, like all the senses go also in Metaverse, I think, of the future that we'll talk a bit later. But then we added like vibration on your body, heat, wind, you're growing, you're experiencing life as a tree. And then when you reach the fullest height, the humans come and start burning the rainforest. So you understand from your own perspective what is actually happening with deforestation. And that's unlike ever in history. We were able to literally have someone else's experience, and all of these things, like for humans, like whether it's a VR, whether we see an image as a VR or JPEG, it's our eyes are perceiving it as reality. So that we are perceiving it as our own experience. So imagine like also this whole positive other side that we could, how can contribute to this current moment in society that we are in. And we are all struggling with climate crisis, but also with a lot of social problems. We could be bringing those problems to you so they can touch your heart and work through empathy of yours so that you can actually have more understanding for the rest of the planet.
That sounds very inspiring, and staying on that, building on that topic of deforestation and destroying forests to build more land. The alternative could be actually buying virtual land. So Sébastien, you talked about how the Sandbox actually enables the creation of land in the metaverse, and in 2021, virtual real estate exceeded 500 million, and it will double probably this year, if not triple. And I think I read that recently a plot of Sandbox land was purchased for 450,000. I think somebody wanted to be a Meta neighbors with Snoop Dogg. So I see luxury brands buying property, building malls, developing real estate. You can have friends over, host parties, open a store, whatever you want. You just can't live there, right? At the moment. So Sébastien, can you tell us a little bit more about what you're building and how you're building this Manhattan of the metaverse? And most importantly, how can one buy a plot of land in the Sandbox?
Of course. Well, first of all, let me reassure you, like, you do not need to own land necessarily to enter the metaverse. We have this map, 464 land in total. It's a square, 408 by 408. That's a limited size because we designed that map from the beginning to be finite and to build a world that's going to be always fun, engaging, like concentrating the best of the entertainment, the best of the community, the best of gaming, etc. So in a way, like just like you said, like people compare us to virtual Manhattan, virtual Hong Kong, virtual Tokyo, virtual Paris. It's a place that's going to gather people with their avatar, with work, with jobs, with opportunity, with ways to be amazed and to discover and to learn, because we can visit landmarks, we can visit museums, we can discover art, etc. There's always something boiling and new and fresh to do. But the metaverse itself, it's actually this infinite world. So, and even going further, it's infinite number of virtual worlds that themselves might have finite or infinite a number of lands. which means like you could still keep expanding it, etc. But we are working to have this concentration. We've sold about 70% of the map, so there's still lands remaining to be sold for probably 1 to 2 more years. We're taking slowly now, and some of those lands are being sold at hefty price because of their location, because you can become in the virtual world the neighbor of Snoop Dogg. That parcel sold for $450,000, or the neighbor of Shibuya 109, like the actual touristic place in Japan with a very famous crossing, which sold for well over 300,000, or a place, one of the largest parcels, which sold for $4.5 million. Let me reassure you though, like those are more of exception, big numbers, but like the regular land parcel is still around $1,000, which makes it still very accessible to most of the creators who will be able to build experiences and launch their digital business online.
That is great. And I see kind of the NFTs and virtual land, like giving a chance to the newer generation, like millennials and Gen Z, actually the ability to own something, because I feel like we have missed out on the real estate boom. But I do have one last question before we switch to the questions from the audience. And Picasso once said, everything you can imagine is real. And judging by the conversation that we just had, in the metaverse, that seems to be true. But today's metaverse is nothing like the metaverse in its final form. So the metaverse is not something that is predetermined, but it's actually emergent. And the metaverse is somewhat kind of building itself. So what is the promise of the metaverse? And what would you like to see the metaverse become? And what do we need to get us there? And maybe Milica, let's start with you.
Of course, everything we talk about future is a speculation. It usually ends somewhere a little bit slightly different than we wanted it to be. But what's exciting is this blending of digital and physical. So for right now, actually, I'm not thinking that I'm using laptop and talking through Zoom. All I'm thinking is just like, this is how I'm going to talk through Zoom. I'm forgetting the device. Or I'm thinking like, who am I going to just text? And I think when we start adding augmented reality, mixed reality, virtual reality into all of this is happening now. I mean, those technologies are already there, but the hardware still needs more iterations and more work to become more seamless, like laptops or phones. So once we add those layers that are actually either 3D objects in this space, or different worlds that I could just be in while in this space, and seamlessly, me not thinking, am I moving through these VR AR worlds or actual worlds? I think that's where we are heading. And for example, like Sandbox of the future could be like, right now I am accessing it through the laptop, but or phone maybe, but in the future, maybe I'm in a Sandbox experience and then I interact with some character type of R2D2 who is like helping me and then asking me to tell me something in this space, in my room, in my office. Right now, we have to do something in my office. So I'm just jumping from the laptop Sandbox world into my actual office, not even interacting with my laptop. And then now we have to repair the space shuttle together, but that has to happen in VR, right? And I am doing that inside VR, and I don't even know, because it's just all one seamless Sandbox experience that I entered, for example. So I think that's where we are probably ultimately building the tools and technology pushing to go to.
Sebastian, what is your vision for the?
Yes, I like to add, like, the metaverse is essentially a challenge of like creativity, content, and technology. So we need to push forward and think of like how we're going to have more immersive interaction through those avatars, whether it's like motion capture, whether it's like dancing, whether it's like AR or VR. That's one interesting thing to think about. And I've seen a lot of exciting technology and we are doing a lot of R&D at Sandbox as well on those topics. The second thing I'm foreseeing is like if we're spending more and more time with our avatars into various type of experience where we're working, we're playing, we're learning, we're socializing, we're dancing, we're discovering, we're being amazed, etc. It makes sense for us and our avatar to actually have those digital properties in the form of NFTs. So some of us have already started to buy our virtual houses in the metaverse and make it our home and the place where we can host our friends, host our birthday party, and more. It makes sense to consider like the digital asset that we own and can have value, can be transferred, can be given to our future kids, can be evolved, can be monetized as well. And that whole digital economy happening in a metaverse will probably exceed the one of the real world, because we're finally being able to value any kind of digital asset and go beyond any laws of physics in both like the time it takes to create, the skills it takes to create and access, and the fact that we can be rewarded for not only creating content, but also spending time in the certain communities, in certain brands land, etc. So it's shifting around the model, again, giving back value to the creator and the user first. And finally, I believe that there's only one place that us as humankind haven't explored in the world, and that we can see in the next 5 to 10 years, is the depth of our imagination. And we are probably not going to go to the moon. We're not probably going to go to Mars, but we have that capability to go deeper into our imagination and what that imagination can allow us to do thanks to technology. And that's essentially where we're all leading towards.
That is absolutely amazing. Now let's turn to RT for live questions from the audience.
It's been an exciting session, not just because of that, but the amazing topic. We have a ton of questions, and so as I look at them, I think the big question, and this is a question from Rehan Ahmad. So let me preface. So Sébastien and Milica, Citi's mission is to serve as a trusted partner, right? And to provide financial services in a responsible way that help our clients and our customers grow and have, economic progress in our communities. So with that, I have kind of a 2-part question. One, how do you envision that we can leverage the Sandbox platform or InfiniteWorld platform, or like the metaverse at large, to both, create opportunities and be a good partner? And on the second side, what are the responsibilities? How can we make sure that as the creators of this new universe, we are being responsible in the way that we're creating them, and we're being responsible from a safety and all of those perspectives that we need to think about?
Do you want me to jump in first?
Sure.
Okay, so I think like we or any decentralized virtual cannot succeed without the community, without the ecosystem around it. And we need actors into that ecosystem to actually be successful, so us as a platform can be successful. It's the core of the business model. Like the business model is just earning royalty fees over the NFTs that are being traded between users. So for those to be traded, there needs to be demand, creator, audience, and so on. So at Sandbox, we have really this fast growing ecosystem where you can find many diverse jobs that some entrepreneurs have already leveraged. One of those jobs is like metaverse builders. So there are studios. Initially, they were individuals who discovered Sandbox 1 year, 2 years ago. They started to play around with our creation tools, even though they had no background, no specific skills or training. And they built experiences for the landowners, which we have now more than 20,000, and the brands. Today, they are usually companies between 10 to 20 people. Some of them are 40, 60. They earn over $1 million a year in business revenue to produce the content, the land for those brands. it's really exciting, like to see how fast they've been growing and which kind of brand they talk to and they serve. We're also seeing like the metaverse agencies, which are essentially helping to on the strategy. Imagine you as a brand, you do not have yet your head of market, head of metaverse, head of Web3 internally. So you're probably going to turn around to those agencies to define and work with you on the strategy, which metaverse could be a part of or could be integral to. And they also can build for you eventually or drive you toward the build. But there's millions more of jobs beyond creativity, beyond strategizing and marketing, playing, coaching, selling virtual estates, becoming a broker, curating content, hosting, being a community manager, or just a person that's welcoming every avatar and making every experience more customized for them. I think the jobs are still to be invented, and also it's quite exciting to think about it.
And to add to that, so companies like ours that are InfiniteWorld that are helping brands find creative solutions, how to enter this space. For Citibank, something like for Citi actually, so something like having virtual presence, meeting those customers that are playing there, that are in avatars, maybe giving them virtual credits, enabling them to do those jobs financially, right, in those places through fintech credits. But then again, everything also has to be through thought. It's like through fun and entertainment as well. And maybe Citi could be organizing virtual events or virtual educational little sessions that participants can listen and learn something new, even like giving them options of creating new jobs and how it can that be supported financially, or projects actually that they want to build. I know, Sébastien, that you are supporting creators, but why not also banks could be supporting them to build houses in those. So literally anything we can do in physical world, we can do in virtual and beyond. And then we need to start thinking about that. Yeah, maybe I need a credit from Citi to buy land in Sandbox.
Great, all amazing business ideas for our colleagues within Citi. Unfortunately, that's all the time we had. I mean, I can keep on chatting about this endlessly. And I'm so grateful to Sébastien and Milica who joined us today to talk about what the metaverse is today, share their perspectives on where the metaverse is going and how we can actively participate in building that metaverse. So if you have more questions, and I know you do, please feel free to reach out to Citi Ventures team. So thank you very much for participating and being patient with us, and goodbye.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.